She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. That's what I thought. A penny for your thoughts, a nickel for your kiss. Grab a dandelion and make a wish. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. That's what I thought. Diamonds in the eyes, gold in the heart. Face like a Da Vinci, her body's a work of art. Got a nigga motivated. She puts me like a shopping cart.
And my favorite thing to tell people is that I grew up in a Spanish church. So, we're taught that you're supposed to commit yourself to a man. You're supposed to,
Have that
union, this holy matrimony. And then you guys kind of like will strive because you create a balance together. He does what he needs to do, you do what you need to do. And that is pretty much our purpose.
And when we got together, those things basically just like fell into place for us. It was like stuff just started falling into place, and that made me feel like, this is the right person for me.
I also want people to know, like, it's the strongest thing you can do, no matter what race you are, is love somebody. It is the most scary, compromising, vulnerable,
Brave.
hard thing to do, to completely allow yourself to be either hurt by somebody or, allow them this kind of control over you where you're just that like I said, vulnerable. And I think that's where a lot of women struggle.
Yeah. And
or healing themselves to accept what a man is trying to give them. That's another thing too, is to kind of be successful and like finally get through to that the marriage. You have to be susceptible to the compromising, the changing, the attitudes, the wife-like duties. Like, you can't be constantly working. I'm sorry, there's no way, unless you're the more masculine role and he's the more feminine role. You have to be willing to do certain things as a wife.
And I feel like, it's my opinion, I feel like she's getting to a point where she's like, maybe, I think a lot of women feel like, I have these options, so I have options, and I can
Like
just,
the grass is greener.
no, not only that, I could turn, even if they're single, I could turn it on one day. I could turn it on and get a man whenever I feel like it.
Well, I mean, we've heard people say that, and we've seen it online where people are like, it's easy to get into a relationship.
Yeah, and then maybe when you're like 30, late 30s and 40s, you're like, I'm getting a little bit older, but when I really feel like I want to have somebody here by my side, I'm gonna just click it on and turn it on and have somebody there. But then, all right, now you're 50, now you're 52.
No, it's easy to find a relationship, but it's easy to stay in one.
Let me see. Now you're 50, now you're 52. The window is getting smaller, and like you said, she had a scare when she had some
stomach ulcers.
Some ulcers. She had a problem with her stomach, and she was in the hospital, and that was just that's like last year, I think.
Yeah.
And
something like that will really like kind of check you.
Yeah. It's like, I'm here sick,
check.
And there's nobody. I mean, my family comes, my mom comes, my kid comes, but there's no man there.
Right. They go
There's
home.
no man there, and maybe that brought on this conclusion, brought on this realization that, hey, wait a minute, this window is closing. I mean, I'm just telling my opinion. That's how I feel. Like, I have a friend, a childhood friend who recently passed away from cancer. And I spent some of her last days with her, and we talked a lot. And the two things that really bothered her the most was her son, how her son was going to do without her, and her not having a man to be there by her side. And it really bothered her, And I think when, like I said, the windows start closing in and that realization comes on.
A health issue or death.
And that's important. Even like Kevin Samuels said it, it's fine. You're by yourself and you're independent, you're mobile, you got all your motor skills, you're good.
But are you okay with dying alone?
But not only that, what happens when you get sick?
Right.
Who's there? Who's going to be there for you? And by that time it's too late. Who are you going to get to be your companion when you're sick? You might have the energy to go look and put forward the effort to go find a person. I seen a video
one day of this lady. She was a nurse. She was talking about men. She was like, I work in this, like which was like the intensive care, something like that, ICU. And she's like, I see these men who, they have good jobs, they have this, they have that, and they might have a stroke or whatever. And like, where's your wife? They don't have a wife.
They have billions in the bank, but nobody by their side.
Maybe not billions, but they have money. They're well off. You know what I'm saying? Well off.
Well, the person she was mentioning, he was well off. That he had a lot of money, and he was successful in his life.
Right.
But he spent so much time focusing on his career, focusing on building himself up to that stature, but then was alone in those moments. It was the sad things she was saying.
Yeah, it's really sad. You might have kids. It doesn't necessarily mean your kids might have their own life going on. They have their own family to take care of, and you don't
really want that to fall on your kids either. After witnessing what my grandmother went through, you don't really want that burden to fall on your kids. Even though you don't want it to fall on your partner either, but you guys are exactly, like, through sickness and in health. But you don't want your kids choosing what happens. You don't want your kids going to pick out your casket. It is not something that you want.
Yeah.
Or not something I would want anyway.
Yeah. You want that person to be by your side and carry that for you, but
I am still not convinced that she necessarily knows yet, though. I don't necessarily know. I think she's sad for sure, because she also mentioned, like I said, suicide ideation, and I think she's in a dark place.
And at the same time, her son's father was murdered
when her child was 9.
Was 9 years old, and she told her son that he died in a car accident. And then her son then find out later on in life through some other channel, and found out that he actually was murdered and stabbed to death. And he never knew that. And he came back to her like, hey, why'd you lie to me? Why'd you boom boom? So that could be something that's weighing on her too,
I think all of it kind of boils down to the fact that she has gone through a lot, clearly. We didn't look up her background as a child,
well, she was his only child at that.
Right, but we didn't look up like her actual, like, the way she grew up. I don't think I've ever read any interviews. No, she never met, like, I didn't read any anyway about her mentioning her life as a child. Yeah. So I don't necessarily know, but at the same time,
she being an only child is another thing.
Only child syndrome.
Only child syndrome. It's like you used to being alone. You want to be alone. You want to have that. That space that sometimes it's comfortability in that for only child,
Or you that's the norm. Like a selfishness.
That too, saying you don't really know how to play with others, for lack of a better term. You don't really you don't always know how to work as a team because you're so used to being alone and being by yourself and having to deal with it. She actually said that's how she became a better actor. Is having an imagination. She said it in an interview.
Yeah.
It's having an imagination and learning how to be by herself and play and talking and playing by herself and acting these things, different roles, because she was alone. So that also could play into, not understanding how to conform and understand other person.
Yeah, be willing to compromise and be necessarily that submissive person that men want. I've realized even this year, submissiveness is a big thing that men look for. It's something that we were, through time and time, through centuries, are supposed to be for men.
Yeah, and you got to look at the dynamic. She's a little bit more known than him, even though he was an athlete, an NFL player, professional football player. I think she was a little bit more known than he was, and older.
Again, that's a big
thing. And she was older than him, so But like I said, this is our observation, our thoughts.
Oh well, look, I looked this up too. So Henson grew up in Washington D.C. and in Auburn Hill, Maryland, where she and her divorced mother moved. That's a big thing too. That she was raised by a single mother.
An only child raised by a single mom.
Yeah. you're not really taught how to be in a relationship or maintain a relationship, or kind of tools to succeed in a relationship if you're raised by a single parent.
And also it could be like a little bitter taste, like a little bad taste in your mouth that we don't know who left, who left first, but just your dad might not be in it. It can bring a little bit of resentment towards
Bitterness
men.
to men.
Maybe. Not saying that's how she feels or that's how she is, but just generally speaking, that's what happens sometimes. I wish that Black women could just stop saying they don't need men. They don't need they don't need men. They don't need anybody. And they're comfortable and happy with where they are.
Yeah, it's sad to see so many Black women like reach their 50s and not be able to be married and experience that that deep kind of I don't even know what the connection. Yeah, that connection.
At the end of the day, you don't have to be married. You don't have to be legally married to be in love with somebody and live your life with them.
It's a connection. That's what I'm saying. It's like to experience that connection is just so comforting, and allowing yourself to get past that. Like even for me, right? When we met, it was kind of hard for me to kind of be okay with allowing you to take that role, or it was hard for me to allow that.
Not necessarily. I think you just gotta just snap into it. I think you. So? Yeah, I think you.
Because I hated when you would offer. I was like, I'm not gonna let you help me.
That's different though. But like when
that's part of hyper independence.
When I raised my voice about something, you kind of like shrunk. When I became the authority, you just accepted it. You didn't fight it. You never once fought my your masculinity or manhood or like authority in a relationship. You accepted it. And at the end of the day, we kind of like both understand what we're good at and not good at, and we rely on the person to carry that
other role.
Exactly. So
we also have another interview. This was October 12th of 2021. Taraji made a comment, "I ain't married because I find the men I need to fix." Like I said earlier, she's a fixer. It's like you're by fixing someone, I feel like sometimes you are blinded by what you have to fix. Like I feel like a lot of the times when I would used to like, oh my God, I'm gonna fix your issues, even though I'm super depressed and like I got my own stuff going on. It's like I'm hyper focused on what you have going on and fixing your issue. So I don't necessarily I don't have to pay attention to my issues. And by finding men that I always had to fix, it was always like I always felt like I was I don't know how to describe this. I want to make you better. By making them better, I was draining myself.
Yeah, that's that. And I know
I'm also building up men who I know are not even half of what I need.
Yeah.
Because I'm so low in myself that I didn't realize it.
But do you find it out when you fixed him and then you're like, all right, I fixed him to his best ability and he's still not enough. So
they usually leave.
But yeah, so I had a friend whose sister, his sister was with this guy, and he was on drugs, and he owned a business, but he was on drugs. She wasn't on drugs, but she would help him get drugs sometimes. She was always, he was around, right? She would help him get drugs. She would help him do some this and that, and eventually they stayed together. Eventually he got off drugs, and he
didn't need it anymore.
No, he got off drugs. And hell yeah, he needed her. He appreciated all the stuff she was with him through thick and thin. When he was on drugs and doing all this kind of crazy stuff, she was still by his side. He eventually got off drugs. He started making a lot more money. His business is still sustained through the whole time. He started making a lot more money. And then all of a sudden, she wanted to go cheat on with some other guy who's on drugs now. And doesn't have his own money, doesn't have his own business.
It's like the want to be needed.
Yeah, and it's like once she fixed him and got him to where he needed to be, she went to another guy who needed to be fixed too, and it was crazy.
Because he needed her more. She likes to feel needed. She likes to be wanted. To know that they depend on her in that way, that she's the only one that can give them that, and it's sick, obviously, but
yeah. So that's the thing too, So, but like I said, I feel like this is an interesting story for us to talk about, and it really correlates and relates to black women, kind of like sucking up your pride and actually going out there and admitting that, you might be tired of doing it on your own, and you shouldn't have to. But if your pride and your ego is going to get in the way, you might die alone.
That's harsh.
And it's unfortunate, but that's the that's kind of like the
I
conclusion.
think women need to focus on healing whatever is preventing them from allowing them to admit that they need somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You're either super focused on your career and yourself, or you focus on marriage. It can't be both.
It's like just hilarious. What she said. She said,
she wants to be a working housewife.
No, that's not even what she said. She didn't even say it that way, and she didn't even put it that way. She said she's never going to stop working. She's going to be doing this until she got no teeth and got dentures in her mouth and still telling comedy. But I also want to be a housewife too.
Yeah.
And those two things that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you got to just step back and think about what the hell you're saying. What the hell do you really want? And admit what you really want and just say it.
And men tell you what they need.
Uh-huh.
I think that we've gotten to an era where even the podcast and the shows and everything that's going on right now, men are literally crying out for what they need from women.
Mm-hmm.
They are telling you what they want. For so long, they've had to hear what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And they conform to that for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of wealthier men now, and things are changing in a way that they're changing with it, but we're not really changing. We're kind of getting worse.
Yeah, because
women, as time goes on, the
divorce
rate goes up.
And it's the whole wave of being independent. Independent woman, I don't need anybody, and this is that. But at the same time, there's women out there, these feminists saying women are being held down and they're, being oppressed. So it's.
Would you say that one of the things you look for in a woman, or what you looked for in a woman, was success? Would you say that, like, her completing school would have made you want to pick her, or would you say the amount of money she made you want to pick her?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Because I think that women, like, they'll go into it like, I have my own money, so he wants an independent woman, blah blah blah. Like, I feel like they think that men want that. They think that men want this woman who's successful, has their own money and stuff like that. But I've never met a man that mentioned that. Said, oh, in a wife, I want someone who makes her own money. I want someone who, got the bag and a Ferrari. And
I think it depends on where the man is at. If the man has his own stuff and he can take care of himself, he has enough, money to sustain, and take care of woman, no matter what her status is or what she has, then it doesn't really matter. But in today's society, that's not really the case. A lot of people need two incomes to live a decent life. So that obviously means the woman has to work too, and the woman has to also bring in some money. But so I think it's like it goes along. It depends on where the man is at in his life, and so obviously if a man is making $100,000 a year, 6 figures a year, whatever, he's not necessarily going to really care about how much money his woman makes. It's not going to really matter because that has nothing to do with him. He's going to take care of what he got to take care of regardless. He's probably going to want her to stay home because she don't, it's probably what he's going to want her to do most of the time. But, if he's just a regular guy making average money, in this economy,
lettuce is $7.
Eggs are what? It's like that. People complain about eggs being like $10, $12 or whatever a dozen.
I think they were like $7.
Something like that. So if it's regular guys, regular people, and
that's okay. But
that's
still,
fine.
as a man, your need, your want is, for a masculine man, is gonna be to take care of your woman, whether that's financially or emotionally.
I think majority of men really want to take care, like we really love to take care of their wife.
That's what I'm saying.
But,
So it's
but
never
they're not
gonna
just always capable of doing it. You know what I'm saying? The circumstances don't.
Right.
You know?
But most of the time, like you said, majority men, their need and want is going to be to push themselves to get to that point where they can take care of you, or at least like take off some of your workload. So they're never going to search for a woman who has a bachelor's degree and works 45 hours a week and can give them nothing except a paycheck.
And the thing too is almost like an ego thing, you know. Like if my woman makes more than me, then you know sometimes the women don't even care that she makes more than him, and it's not even an issue to her. She's not even a problem. She's not bringing it up, but he keeps bringing it up, and like you know.
But then there's things like Gabrielle Union, where she ended up cheating on her ex-fiance because of the fact that she was the more masculine man, because she provided more and she made more money. There was really no.
But she was with him still. That was her choice to sit there and cheat on him, but she could have just left him.
Sometimes it gives us an ego boost.
That's what I'm saying. It's an ego thing. Yeah. But you know, so like I said, you know, some women don't. It's not a thing to them. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're partners. We're in this together, and you know, I make more money, but so what? You know. For example, like you say, you know, you're not great with money. So you want me to handle the money, regardless of who makes more or what. You know,
this is true.
You know, so
I'm not as disciplined.
And that's fine. You know, so but a lot of times, you know, women they're gonna down a man, make him feel like less of a man. You know, make him feel like he's the bitch.
I think they hold things against them a lot too. I think as women we tend to hold resentments and then kind of throw them at you. By the time that we tell you, it's too late for you to fix it.
Or, you know, or when we come back and say, "Hey, why'd you do X, Y, Z? Why'd you do this? This is that." Like, oh, I did. So what? But what about this? This is that. And it's like a thing that you deflect. And
when it's okay to admit that we have to fix ourselves, I think a lot of the most important thing is self-reflection, which brings us back to Taraji. She's going away for a whole month to Bali to kind of self-reflect and have a spiritual journey in reconnecting with herself and figuring out what makes her happy and where she wants to go with life. You know, and it's kind of sad to say that sometimes by the time people come to that conclusion, it's too late. Sometimes men won't want to marry you because, you know, you do have a child. You are past a certain point. Why would they want to wife you when they can go wife the 23-year-old who is the younger one and is willing to do a lot more? You know, I don't know.
It's tough, man. It's tough. But at the end of the day, women, if you could avoid that, you could avoid being in your elder years and being alone, and then you know you want to start to think like you're regretting some of the things, the decisions that you made, some of the engagements you done disconnected and thrown to the side and cut off.
Or sometimes you could be looking at it like, why did I break up with him for this stupid reason? Why was I so picky? Why did I think I could get better? You know, part of being in a relationship is knowing that one, like she said, the grass isn't always greener, but you know, you're not great. You're not perfect yourself. None of us are perfect. And there was a 80-20 rule. 80% you have to be, you know, things that you love about that person. 20% are things that you absolutely hate, but are willing to accept, because that 80% is so much more than that 20.
Yeah.
So you learn to accept those things. You know, it comes with a person or can be changed, or even if it can't be changed, you know.
Sometimes you got to stop letting the bad outweigh the good.
You know, there's going to be bad with everybody.
Yeah.
We all have bad. We all have these pet peeves and negative traits and annoying tendencies, but, you know.
Another important thing, too, is when the opposite sex tells you what the problem is or
what they want,
listen, at least listen and then try, you know, to fix it. A lot of times when it comes to women telling men, oh, this is what I want, you know, I want flowers more. I want you to do X, Y, Z more. Majority of the time, the man puts in the effort. Majority of the time, the man puts in the effort. Like, okay, boom, boom, the happy wife, happy life thing. But when majority of the time, when a man tells a woman, this is what my problem is, X, Y, Z, No, that's not why. It's an argument. It's a back and forth. It's a tug of war.
Mm.
It turns to, why should I do? Like, okay, I'm telling you why. So,
men are the prizes, y'all. I hate to say it because I know that's probably going to get me a lot of slack from it, but seriously, men are the prizes. We can be recycled. You can marry me and in 5 years decide you want to marry another 27-year-old because I'm not willing to keep working out and maintaining my body. I'm not willing to sacrifice and be submissive and do certain things that you love about me. We are replaceable. Men can always get a woman if they have a certain status in life, or they make a certain amount of money. We're replaceable. The next young girl hop in and
like I say,
and because they do provide for us.
All the women are fighting for these small
group of men.
You know what I'm saying?
It's all status of men.
Yeah, so it's a lot of competition, a lot of options, and like I say, don't wait till you get in your elder years to say, you know what, I'm ready to change and I'm ready to do this, because the pool is going to be real small. The pool's going to be a sauna.
Your chance of getting married after a certain age just dwindles completely. Yeah. And it's sad. I feel sad for those people because I feel like everybody should get to experience what I saw in my grandparents. As corny as that is, it is the truth. It is. It's
the truth.
I hope some people watch this and really sit and think about, do I want to be married one day? If you can sit and think, do I want to be married one day? What behaviors and what things are preventing you from getting there? And what can you do to get there if that's really something you want one day? Because it's something you have to start thinking of very young, honestly.
And at the end of the day, you're the common denominator in all of your relationships. And if all your relationships fail or end the same way,
or none of them are just working,
you got to look at yourself.
There's something you have to work on, because either you're attracting that type of person or you're a fixer, a Captain Save-A-Ho, which means you have some type of trauma or some type of sadness in you, because now you're hyper fixing everybody else so they don't feel the pain that you once felt. And that's something you have to heal. Yeah. The healing is never ending. I don't think that you have to be healed to a certain point to get into a relationship, but I think that you have to be able to accept love. Accept love and allow yourself to give it completely.
Yeah.
Because if you're not giving 100, you're not going to get 100.
Don't be scared.
Men are going to fix themselves for the woman that's worth it. You shouldn't have to fix a man to be what you want him to be, because if you're worth it, if you're the wife to him, if he sees you as that wife, he's going to change for you. He's going to make that difference. He's going to make all the effort to let you know that you're the wife. You're going to be the wife.
Exactly. So, let us know how you like this episode, your thoughts. You think we were way off track? You think we were close to it or spot on? Let us know in the comments. If you haven't been on the page before, it's your first time, like and subscribe. And Bree, let us know what it is.
The deed's been done. The cake's been baked.
She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. That's what I thought. A penny for your thoughts, a nickel for your kiss. Grab a dandelion and make a wish. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. That's what